This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter, and this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. Hello, and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show each episode. You can find more of our work at ObsessiveViewer.com, more of our podcasts at ObsessiveViewer.com/podcasts. You can also like us on Facebook and join the Facebook group at Facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer, and you can support us on Patreon at Patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer at the minimum rate of $1 per month for an exclusive RSS feed with content recorded specifically for Patreon supporters. I'm your host, the aforementioned Matt Hurt, and I'm here with another special edition of the podcast. It is currently April 26th, 2020, and we are at the beginning/middle of day 39 of the first and, dear God, hopefully last ever COVID-19 Film Festival. The COVID-19 Film Festival is basically me chronicling all the movies I watch while working from home and quarantining myself during this global pandemic that we're in the midst of. I'm presenting these podcast episodes as if I were covering a film festival because I'm me. I'm going to have special days that are programmed by the other hosts, and they may Skype in to record. So having said that, I'm actually going to start moving away from the programmed days because stress. I don't want to have just programmed days. I just want to watch stuff and talk about it. So this is a special kind of themed episode in that it is chronicling days 20 to day 38 of the quarantine and everything. So, this is actually going to be a Sci-Fi Showcase. So it's probably one of the last, themed episodes, and then I might just do general potpourri going forward, but we'll see. So this is The Obsessive Viewer, and as I have been doing in these episodes, I'm going to run down some quick COVID-19 stats, I guess. I believe, if my notes are correct, the last time that I ran down the stats was reflecting April 2nd, 2020. I live in the state of Indiana, so the state of Indiana on April 2nd, which was 14 days ago? Is that right? Did I just do math right? No, it was 22 days ago. 24 days ago. Okay, I did not just pause this recording to ask my Amazon Echo how many days it's been since April 2nd. Okay, anyway, so, how many did I say? 24 days ago. Jesus Christ. And then I'm gonna go into this serious fucking data. Wow. Anyway, so April 2nd was 24 days ago. As of April 2nd, the state of Indiana, one of 50 states in the United States, had 3,039 positive cases of COVID-19, 78 confirmed deaths from COVID-19, and a total number of 16,285 people that were tested for COVID-19. That was 24 days ago. As of a couple of days ago, April 24th is when I have the data in front of me, the total number of positive cases in the state of Indiana, one of 50 states in the United States, was 13,680. So that's that's 10,600 more. 741 deaths, which is a jump from 78 deaths on April 2nd, and a total of 75,553 total tested. That's of April 24th. A friend of the show and host of the Secular Perspective, Chad, actually got tested for it because he was feeling ill and everything, and he got tested for it. Said it was one of the worst experiences, and I've seen just pictures of how they test it. They go in through the nose, and I've heard it described as it feels like they're scraping your brain, and just so stay inside so you don't have to get tested. And so as of April 24th, the entire United States, I just want to kind of start doing these stats here real quick. April 24th, 2020, 865,585 positive cases of COVID-19 in the United States as a whole country, and 48,816 deaths. And that has already obviously gone up in the last couple of days. So we've broken 50,000 deaths of COVID-19. Okay, so So yeah, those are the stats. A couple of news items related to COVID-19, and I promise I'll get into the actual podcast and actual content that you guys actually subscribe for and listen to as an escape from all of this nonsense and craziness. I just want to point out a few things. Like my notes, I have links to YouTube videos. I'll put the links in the show notes and everything. I'm recording this April 26th, and like a couple of days ago, on Thursday, it's Saturday, so Thursday, that was April 24th. This may have been Wednesday or Thursday, I'm not sure, but I'll link in the show notes. The mayor of Las Vegas, the clip went viral of her being interviewed by Anderson Cooper, and she is a fucking idiot. She offered to make Las Vegas a control group for reopening and everything, and then I'm so happy with the way Anderson Cooper handled the interview, because it's just like it's nonsense. Like, he says, like, well, he asks her, would she really put them up as a control group, and then she says, I didn't say that. I said I offered to put them up, but then the statisticians told me not to, because we have other people coming in from other cities for it. And I'm like, that, like, just listening to that, it's ridiculous. It's insane, the level of stupidity. Yeah. So anyway, that was aggravating. And then she wrote this, or issued this statement, a day or so later, where she kind of doubled down on it, saying that, like, the city of Las Vegas is built upon the hospitality industry, and we won't survive if we can't reopen and everything. And it's like, okay, yes, economic hardships, yeah, I understand that. It's really an unprecedented time, but it's also, it's dangerous. It would be directly, like, prematurely reopening, like, businesses and everything will cause an uptick in cases and deaths. Like, could not be more simple than that. Anyway, link in the show notes. Vegas mayor is a fucking idiot. Next piece of news is that Trump is a fucking idiot. He said, and this went viral, the actual, I'm just gonna play a clip. Here's a clip from what he said in the press briefing. And I'm just going to say it without comment. I'm just going to present it without comment. Here you go.
Supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that, too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number in the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. So we'll see, but the whole concept of the light, the way it kills it in 1 minute, that's pretty powerful. Steve?
All right. Trump is a fucking idiot. Moving on. Next piece is protesters are fucking idiots. Recently, like in the last week or so, reopen the economy protests have been popping up over the country. It happened overnight, and there was an interview, or there was a post on Reddit where someone went through and figured out, like, okay, well, it's a astroturfing thing, which is a fake, not fake, but it's an orchestrated protest meant to make the appearance of, have the appearance of being a grassroots effort. So that's the reason why, by hiding who is actually, orchestrating everything. And like there's been ties to Betsy DeVos or whatever. But basically what it comes down to is all of the Facebook groups that orchestrated this and all of the URLs that popped up were all traced back to the exact same like IP address and same person that did it and everything. So it's presented as this grassroots effort that's trying to drum up like the, general public saying that like, oh, we're ready for it to reopen and everything. And it's dangerous. It's stupid. It's completely just bonkers insane. But there was one at one of the rallies, I think in Michigan, where Jesus Christ, like like the guy holding a sign saying COVID-19 is a lie while he is in a complete like labs like setup with a mask and everything, gloves and everything. It's like, okay, well that doesn't compute. Like you're fucking stupid. Anyway. So there was a clip from Fox News of protesters, a couple of protesters talking about how they can't go buy things that they need or they can't go to the hair salon. And Tim Robinson, I think I talked about this in a couple episodes ago, but his sketch show on Netflix, I Think You Should Leave, is brilliant. Like it is genius. And he took that clip, a very short clip from Fox News, and he added himself to it, to great comedic effect. So I'm going to play that in its entirety here. It's only like 30 seconds. The third voice you're going to hear is Tim Robinson mocking the protesters that are, complete fucking idiots. Here you go. Tim Robinson, Fox News.
You can't buy paint. You can't buy lawn fertilizer or grass seed or whatever. I mean, come on. All statewide? Really?
It's time for our state to be opened up. We're tired of not being able to buy the things that we need, go to the hairdressers, get our hair done.
Now's when I start to buy my Halloween stuff. What, am I not supposed to buy my Halloween stuff? Really?
Okay, so that made me laugh. So anyway, okay, enough COVID-19 stuff. Let's get into the episode. This is a sci-fi showcase of stuff that I've watched over the last several days, couple of weeks, 18 days. So in the kind of spotlight review at the end of this episode is going to be a conversation that I had with Ben, our contributor and friend of the show and frequent guest, about Devs, the sci-fi limited series on FX on Hulu, from writer, creator, producer, everything, Alex Garland, one of my favorite filmmakers working today and one of the, like, a great, like, sci-fi, filmmaker. But before we get to all that, I'm going to run down a couple of news items here. Really the first one I'm going to mention is, SNL. They've done SNL at home now. They've done it twice. I'm recording this Sunday, April 26th. April 26th. So I've gotten my days mixed up, honestly. Like I've been sitting here talking for however long this recording has been so far, and I've been thinking it's Saturday. And yeah, like my Amazon Echo, like I asked like what the temperature was a few days or like a week ago, because I wanted to know if it was warm enough to go outside to take my trash out, without like a sweatshirt or anything. So I asked it, and then it said, like, this was like a Friday or something, and then it said, the current temperature is blah, blah, blah. And then it said, would you like to know the forecast for the weekend? And I was like, no, no, I don't, because weekends are pointless now. Anyway, it's Sunday, April 26th, and the first piece of news I'm going to bring up is that SNL has had now 2 specials that they have aired. It is SNL at Home. I've only watched the first one, which was a couple of weeks ago, kind of introduced and hosted by Tom Hanks. Man, it is so interesting. It is fascinating. It is all, it's the cast doing segments and bits at their home and everything. And it is a fascinating piece of television history. If I could be very superlative, if I can lavish superlatives at it, it is just very bizarre to watch this thing. And it's available on Hulu now, if you want to check it out. SNL at Home. It's so weird. And it's a good weird. Like, it has its highs and lows. It's an SNL episode, but it's so, while I was watching, I had this sudden urge to just like try to download as many, somewhat illegally download, like, these episodes and like things that are cropping up in terms of media that is all happening now during this, just as a time capsule to keep it, and everything for when things get back to normal, hopefully, if they do. So I say that somewhat facetiously, but, yeah, there's a bit of truth to that. Anyway, yeah, but I didn't end up downloading anything, but it is just an interesting piece of television history currently happening, in entertainment history, as is a lot of the like TikToks and stuff, and a lot of just the content that's being created in isolation and in quarantine has been very just fascinating to me. Yeah, so I haven't seen the second episode yet. I did see that Brad Pitt plays Dr. Fauci. Screw it. So I thought that was pretty cool. The next thing, next news item is that Parks and Rec has recorded and have created a quarantined episode that is a full episode of Parks and Recreation. I think that is going to be available April 30th, I think. I'll put a link in the show notes in case I'm wrong on that. But, really, that's exciting and interesting and cool. I kind of wonder how long it's going to take for that to be, if it ever will be added to Netflix, or I guess HBO Max when HBO Max comes out. Which, by the way, HBO Max is coming out May 27th or May 26th, I think. They announced their lineup and everything. I'll have more later, I think, with that on another episode. But HBO Max is going to be a separate streaming platform and everything. My understanding is that if you have HBO Now or HBO Go, you automatically get HBO Max. And that comes with the caveat that you will need to have HBO Go or HBO Now directly from HBO. Like, you can't, like, if you have like HBO as an add-on subscription from Amazon Prime, it won't give you HBO Max. That's what the HBO Max website led me to believe on the FAQ section. So I went ahead and I have HBO Go through Amazon as an add-on channel. And I went ahead and canceled that subscription. So, so next month when that subscription runs out, I'm going to re-up on HBO Go and get HBO Max, which is going to have a ton of stuff. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll put an episode around it. I don't know. But anyway, I'm curious how they'll implement the special one-off episode that Parks and Rec is doing. I wonder if that'll be included in HBO Max, because I believe Parks and Rec will be available. I don't know if Parks and Rec will be available day one, because I know that The Office will be available in January, because I think of the licensing on Netflix. But I don't know. All that's for future Matt to parse out. Last piece of news before I get into my rundown of my science fiction viewing is that I mentioned in a previous episode, because I think a couple episodes ago I completely spaced bringing this up, and then the next episode I think I brought it up. Anyway, South by Southwest 2020. It's like Amazon Prime has a special deal where April 27th, so that's tomorrow, from April 27th to May 6th, they're going to host the South by Southwest 2020 Film Festival Collection only on Amazon Prime Video. So I'm going to read from the website. Prime Video presents the South by Southwest 2020 Film Festival Collection. Amazon Prime Video and South by Southwest are joining forces for a one-time online film festival that showcases a collection of films from the 2020 South by Southwest lineup. This exclusive event will be available for streaming for free for 10 days only. So again, that's April 27th, so tomorrow as of this recording, to May 6th. And I'm really, really excited about it, because I'm going to, it's the coverage that I'm hoping that we do on the podcast will be a film festival within a sham film festival that I'm doing with the COVID-19 Film Festival. They have a rundown of all of the content that they're going to have available. It's 39 different things. Most of them are short films. There's a few episodic TV shows, and I think 6 or 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 full-length feature films, which I am hoping, and don't hold me to this, I'm really hoping that I can get written reviews of each one of those throughout the week on the website, because I love it, and it'll be a nice distraction. So, running down the names of the full-length features that are going to be available on South by Southwest on Amazon Prime. Cat in the Wall, directors Mina Mileva and Vesela Kasokova. Gunpowder Heart, directed by Camilla Uritia. I'm Gonna Make You Love Me, directed by Karen Bernstein. Le Choc de Futur, director Mark Collin. My Darling Vivian, directed by Matt Riddle-Hoover. Selfie, by directors Mark Fituzzi, Cyril Gelblatt, Vianney Lebeski, Thomas Bidigane, and Tristan Aruet. And the 7th one is TFW No GF, directed by Alex Lee Moyer. So look for written reviews of that on the website, of those movies on the website on obsessiveviewer.com over the next hopefully 10 days. It'll probably be pushed, but anyway, episodic entries in the South by Southwest Film Festival collection is Cursed Films, showrunner and director Jay Cheel. Cursed Films is actually available on Shudder right now. It's 5 episodes, documentary about cursed films. Motherland, Fort Salem, showrunner Elliot Lawrence. I don't have any details on that, but and Tales from the Loop, showrunner Nathaniel Halpern and director Mark Romanek. Tales from the Loop is actually available on Amazon Prime right now. And it's an Amazon Prime original. I will probably be covering it on Anthology down the line, which, by the way, I relaunched Anthology over at anthologypod.com. Check it out. My chronicling my experience watching The Twilight Zone as a first-time viewer and reviewing classic and contemporary science fiction anthology shows as well. There are a bunch of short films that are going to be on South by Southwest Film Festival collection on Amazon Prime. I'm not going to go through each one and everything, but I do definitely recommend checking them out and everything. Short films are incredible, and the versatility of having a short film and having them all at our fingertips for these next 10 days is really cool. I do want to mention there's one titled Call Center Blues that I'm very eager to see because I used to work in a call center, and I believe there's a short film called Daddy-O that's directed by Casey Wilson, the actress from Happy Endings and a bunch of stuff. So that is all going to be on South by Southwest Film Festival collection on Amazon Prime Video. You won't need a Prime Video account to access it. For the 10 days, it's going to be open to everyone. I don't know if that's only the US or if that's international as well. I want to say that it's almost certainly only the US, but hopefully not. But check that out, April 27th through May 6th. And check that out. Okay, so we've come to my rundown of the stuff that I've watched over the last 18 days, I think. The COVID-19 Film Festival. These aren't really in order. I had a whole other plan, and then that plan fell through, and I had a whole other concept and everything. I originally wanted to make this kind of just all about Philip K. Dick adaptations that I watched. But then I ran out of time, or I let time elapse too much, so I watched a bunch of other stuff. So when you hear my conversation with Ben later in this episode, you'll hear me reference it as being like, oh, this is a Philip K. Dick episode, or oh no, I think I say it's an Alex Garland episode. I scrapped that idea, so past me that you're going to be listening to in the future is an idiot. So first up, The X-Files. Last year I started watching The X-Files on Amazon Prime. And then I kind of fell off. I watched most of season 1. I think I watched 15 or 16 episodes, and I was all for it. I was loving every minute of it. And And then I kind of fell off of it. And then I figured, you know what? Hey, I'm home now. It's quarantine. I'm working from home. I'll finish up season 1. Splendid. Fantastic. Season 1 aired from 1993 to 1994. And of course, for people who don't understand what X-Files is, plot summary is 2 agents from vastly different backgrounds join forces to solve cases the FBI has labeled X-Files. Man, I love this show. It's interesting because my relationship to science fiction in general, it has been not rocky or anything, but it's been a growing kind of phenomenon in my life. I've always had this like pull towards science fiction. I've always enjoyed science fiction, but I don't think it was until I started Anthology that I really got deeper into science fiction. And that's something that I love. For context, like I consider Mike, co-host who's on sabbatical from the podcast, Mike to be a connoisseur of horror. And he is someone who he knows, like he's a student of the horror genre. And like my aspirations is to be that deeply involved with science fiction, which is probably nonsense for me to say out loud, but that's kind of like a thing that I have in my head. So anyway, science fiction is great and X-Files is fantastic. The first season is like, it's episodic. It has, like standalone episodes, monsters of the week and stuff like that. I really like the format because it's almost anthology-esque in its execution. And it is very heavily indebted to, it very much pulls inspiration and everything from shows like The Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits, which are shows that I'm very, I've devoted the last several years of my life to very, very slowly covering The Twilight Zone as a first-time viewer on Anthology. And I just love seeing, like, science fiction in the 90s also, play out in such a fun way, in such an intriguing way. It's genre television in the 90s. It's so great. The overarching, storylines and stuff worked pretty well. I like that the first season doesn't really give much in terms of, mythology and mythology building. We get, the little pieces here and there. We get, Mulder's, backstory. His sister was abducted and everything. And we get, I like that that Mulder and Scully clash, but their rhythm is so good. Their chemistry is great. And it's there's a little bit of that sexual tension in the show, but it's more about their conflicting ideologies when it comes to the X-Files. And it's really cool to see play out because it's not played that one is right or the other's wrong. I mean, technically it is very much played that Mulder is right, but it's not played at their expense. It's just they're developing this lore and these characters and this backstory slowly throughout the first season. I really appreciate the show for that. There's a ton of really cool guest stars and everything that have all, I'm noticing them pop up. In one episode, there was, Titus Welliver, who's on Bosch and was obviously on Lost for the last couple of seasons. Really just, I love it so much. The X-Files is great. I was watching it on, Amazon Prime last year, but then when I decided to pick it back up, Amazon Prime no longer carried it, but it is available to stream on Hulu, which is where I'm watching it now. Yeah. So hopefully it stays on Hulu. I did really, really strongly consider buying it on Vudu. It was only $100 for all 11 seasons, I think. And I'm like, that's not a bad deal at all. But then, it was one of those late nights where I was laying in bed and I was just looking at it, and then I messaged my friends and I was like, please talk me out of buying the X-Files. And then one of my friends was like, oh, it's available on Hulu. I'm like, okay, fine. So anyway, that's the X-Files season 1. It's available on Hulu. Check it out if you've never seen it. If it's one of your blind spots like mine, I highly recommend it. It's very cool, especially if you are a fan of anthology science fiction shows, because it definitely has that going for it and very heavily influenced by, from Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits. So next up on this Sci-Fi Spotlight is Minority Report from 2002. It is available to stream on Netflix as of this recording. Plot summary, courtesy of the Netflix page at least, is in the late 21st century when technology can predict crimes before they're committed, a top pre-crime cop is targeted for a murder charge. So Minority Report is based on a short story, I believe, by Philip K. Dick, who I'm a fan of. Like, I've gotten more into Philip K. Dick over the last couple of years. He had the show, or there was a show based on his work on Amazon Prime called Philip K. Dick's Electric Dreams. Only one season. I watched it, and I'm going to eventually review it on Anthology, I promise. But I enjoyed it quite a bit for what it was, and I've gotten into reading Philip K. Dick recently, and he's so just his work is really cool. Like, I really like his brand of science fiction. It's very much lived in, and it's just, he creates this world in just so few pages and then explores that world without it being necessary to have any heavy lifting in terms of long passages just of backstory and stuff. It's very economized and very clever. So Minority Report from 2002, directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Tom Cruise, Colin Farrell, Samantha Morton. It holds up really well, honestly. Like, I watched it, kind of, not necessarily on a whim, because I kind of had this idea that I would spend a day watching Philip K. Dick adaptations, as you'll see as I go on to this episode. But it holds up really well. What I really appreciate about Minority Report is the way that it's a meld between Steven Spielberg's, like, whole aesthetic and his whole deal when he deals with science fiction, but it is a meld between that and the aesthetic and the world building of Philip K. Dick. And it's a unique compromise between the two creative forces, because Steven Spielberg has this kind of, it's going to sound diminutive of it, but it's this kind of Amblin-esque kind of sweet and saccharine kind of feel to it. Like, you think of Steven Spielberg, and a lot of times, Steven Spielberg doing science fiction is like E.T. and Close Encounters and everything. It's very much this kind of family-based kind of exploration, it's part and parcel with Steven Spielberg's work. But when he handles a piece of science fiction from, like, Philip K. Dick that's more mature and more serious in tone and dark in tone, it's this really interesting clash of the two kind of creative forces. So watching Minority Report, it's just really, it's an interesting aesthetic. It has that Steven Spielberg brand, but he also does this, like, overexposure of the camera lens, where it's like the brightness of the just lighting is just almost overbearing, and it's very grainy also. Like, it's some interesting kind of technical choices by Spielberg. And it kind of just really brings you into this surreal world, in this futuristic world. I was kind of all about it. I was kind of really digging it when I was rewatching it. And this was the first time I'd watched Minority Report in maybe like 10 years. So it had been a while, and it holds up really well. I had some issues, like, back in the day, because it does kind of, I don't want to say crap the bed, but it does kind of get to a conspiratorial mystery thing, most of the way through it, that kind of seems a little bit, I don't know, padded, I guess. And it's pretty good. It's pretty solid. It holds up well in this context and everything, or in this rewatch of it. It holds up well. I'll leave it at that. It is available to stream on Netflix. What else? Oh, there was a TV show also for like a season or two, which I've tried. It's not available to stream anywhere or anything. I think it was kind of garbage, but I can't commit to that. So next up is another Philip K. Dick adaptation. Next from 2007. Next has Nicolas Cage, plot description from, this one is from Amazon Prime, where you can stream it. Las Vegas showroom magician Chris Johnson has a secret. He can see 2 minutes into the future. Sick of the government and scientific interest in his gift, he lies low in Vegas, performing cheap tricks and living off small-time gambling winnings. But when a terrorist group threatens to detonate a nuclear device in Los Angeles, government agent Callie Ferris must use all her wiles to capture Chris and convince him to help her stop the cataclysm. So yeah, this was in 2007. It has Nicolas Cage. It has Jessica Biel. Nicolas Cage and Jessica Biel, man, no chemistry. Like, it is kind of bizarre how little chemistry they have, on screen. But also, as the FBI agent, as Callie Ferris is, it's been a while. Was it, oh my God. Julianne Moore. Yes. Okay. So anyway, I'm back. So, this movie is okay. It also has Peter Falk in a kind of thankless role, but it's an interesting story. It's an interesting, movie in that it feels like it is trying to be the science fiction kind of adventure action movie, but it is so much of its time. So it's 2007 that this was released, and it feels like it is trying to be like a science fiction 24 episode. So like 24 was, anti-terrorist and everything. The whole thing with Los Angeles and the nuke and everything in Next feels so much like kind of a 24 kind of aesthetic that I couldn't really get into it. Not anything against 24. It was one of my favorite shows when I was like in the early 2000s. But this just feels so much like a cheap kind of rip off of that. The concept of a character being able to see 2 minutes into the future is interesting, and some of the utilizations of it are pretty cool. And it offers some pretty cool action and everything, some interesting like misdirects and stuff. But it is it's solid. It's solid, but that kind of like anti-terrorist subplot just feels just so tacked on and so I don't know, just really just haphazard and awkward. Like, it doesn't fit at all. And again, there's like no chemistry between Jessica Biel and Nicolas Cage, in the movie. It's pretty bad. It's not as bad as people say it is. Like, I've heard people say that it's not, it's kind of garbage, but it's pretty solid for the most part. Nicolas Cage is fine in it. He's not like over the top Nicolas Cage by any stretch, in it. So it's pretty solid. And that's kind of a brief, review of that. Next up is another Philip K. Dick, adaptation. This one is The Adjustment Bureau from 2011. Plot summary. It is available to stream on HBO, by the way. Plot summary from HBO is: fate takes a hand in the pre-planned lives of a politician and a ballerina in this intriguing tale starring Matt Damon and Emily Blunt. I really liked The Adjustment Bureau. This was my first time ever seeing it. It's kind of this really cool exploration of the concept of fate. And what's interesting about it is that it takes this concept of fate and personifies it in the Adjustment Bureau, these fedora wearing, suited people who are kind of behind the scenes and behind the curtains setting up everything. It's like it's the personification of fate. And it's really intriguing. The one thing, and I mentioned this in my Letterboxd review, the one thing is that, Matt Damon his character is, running for Congress or something, and he is, or senator, I don't know, but he is portrayed as the bad boy of like Congress or whatever. And I'm like, I can't buy into that at all. I really can't. But it's a cool movie. It's surprisingly good. I bought into the concept. That's another thing that kind of similar to Minority Report is that this, like, The Adjustment Bureau is a really cool depiction of a Philip K. Dick universe. Like, it is so much like, it gets that Philip K. Dick feel that you get when you read Philip K. Dick short stories or novels, like that world is created in the Adjustment Bureau very well. Like it is replicated, that feeling so well. Like the aesthetic, the general aesthetic of a Philip K. Dick universe is transformed into a movie very well in the Adjustment Bureau, and I really appreciate it for that. Kind of the idea of fate versus free will, and the idea of Matt Damon having to fight fate in order to keep Emily Blunt in his life is just a really cool concept, and it's explored really well in the Adjustment Bureau. So that's cool. That's the Adjustment Bureau, and I'm kind of rapid fire these next couple of ones because I've talked about them ad nauseum over the years on the podcast. So Alex Garland, before he became a director, before his first directorial effort with Ex Machina, although there were reports that he did like some uncredited directing on Dredd, but my introduction to Alex Garland was in the two Danny Boyle movies, 2003's 28 Days Later and 2007's Sunshine. These are two of my favorite movies of all time. 28 Days Later is plot summary. It is available to stream on Hulu for now. I want to say that it's supposed to leave Hulu on April 30th, but I can neither confirm nor deny that. Plot summary is a deadly virus transforms humans into bloodthirsty, rage-filled zombies that leave a handful of survivors on the run for their lives. 28 Days Later is a movie that's very near and dear to my heart. I saw it in theaters back in 2003, when I was, I think, a sophomore or junior in high school. And man, I loved it. Over the years, I've grown to appreciate that it pays heavy homage to like George A. Romero's movies, and particularly Day of the Dead. But it does so in such a unique way. Like it's filmed in this kind of handycam, like digital handycam kind of thing. It's very low budget. Like the scenes of London just abandoned are astonishing. And like rewatching it, I can't believe that they were able to pull that off. Like just the idea of just empty streets is really cool and very evocative. And the actual concept of like rage-filled zombies, this is the, I believe, origin of the fast zombies, or it's mainstream fast zombies. And like over the years, there have been a lot of like back and forth between nerds saying that, well, they're not really zombies because they're just filled with rage, and it's not zombies. They're not reanimated corpses. It's like, okay, settle down. It's zombies. They're zombies. It's a zombie movie. Shut up. So revisiting it now, this was the first time I'd seen it in a few years, I think, but man, it holds up so well. It is a great horror science fiction movie. It's terrifying. Like the scene where they are where they're driving away and they get trapped in the tunnel and they have to fix the tire. Like that is an adrenaline fueled scene, and beforehand it's so cool to see these characters bonding so well. Like it's they're having fun. They're driving over dead bodies, but they're having fun and everything. Before that they were shopping and everything, and just like tender moments like that of these characters bonding and becoming a family is just really well done and everything. And just the idea of these fast zombies that can infect you with this virus and there's no coming back from it is just really cool. I do want to mention, I was very much into 28 Days Later when I was in high school, and I loved this movie. And going through, like, while I was like reading up about 28 Days Later back in the day, the original ending that they actually storyboarded, I don't know if it was the original ending or just an alternate ending, but they had this idea that they were going to do a complete blood transfusion, which is ridiculous. Like basically, since the virus is in someone's blood, they were going to have someone's blood transferred from one person to another and thereby swapping the infection. Really out there. I can't believe that they like that made it past like the outlining stage, but just really kind of fun piece of trivia. Sunshine. Moving on. 2007 Sunshine. Honestly, I might like it better than 28 Days Later. Both are 5-star movies for me. Sunshine from 2007, if you don't know, plot summary from... this is the Voodoo plot summary because it's not available to stream anywhere. In the not-too-distant future, Earth's dying sun spells the end for humanity. In a last-ditch effort to save the planet, a crew of 8 men and women ventures into space with a device that could revive the star. However, an accident, a grave mistake, and a distress beacon from a long-lost spaceship throw the crew and its desperate mission into a tailspin. Sunshine. Man, one of my favorite movies of all time. I've bought it countless times for a variety of reasons. I bought it for Tiny when it first came out. I upgraded to Blu-ray. I rebought the Blu-ray because the Blu-ray didn't work on the PS3, or I had a voucher thing where they sent me a free one. I've bought it on Vudu just so I could have it digitally. Such a great movie. What I love about it is the way that the crew works together. It's very much indebted to like Alien, which by the way, today is April 26th. Happy Alien Day. What I kind of noticed this time around, aside from just the unbelievably great work that John Murphy did on the score, the incredible work that John Murphy's score does for the movie is astonishing. Like, it is one of the best scores I've ever heard in a movie. Visually, it's stunning. I mean, it's a great space movie. Danny Boyle knows how to direct that. He creates this believable spaceship environment and the shots from outside Icarus and the kind of the idea of the sun, like they're flying into the sun and the light is hitting the shields at the front of the ship. And just like, there are moments where like the sound design like has this roar to it. It's so cool. It's such an incredible movie. But, it's funny because I listened to the commentary years and years ago on the Blu-ray. And I remember Danny Boyle saying that like, there's a reason why so many filmmakers only make one space movie because it's incredibly hard for them to make a space movie. And like, this is his one space movie that he did. Yeah, I love the cast of characters. We've got Chris Evans, pre-Captain America as Mace, and we've got Cillian Murphy as Kappa. And I want to single those two out because they've got this energy to them. And like in the commentary, Danny Boyle references it as kind of an almost homoerotic kind of energy, but they are two sides. They are the like, scientific, like, logic based thinking in terms of Kappa, and we've got Mace as the completely pragmatic kind of extreme person. And like they clash and they have there's so much energy in terms of just the human element of it, the human decisions that are made. They clash so much on that front. And I love that this movie is very much steeped, like many, if not all of the kind of misfortunes that happen in the mission and throughout the movie are human error. Like it is very much steeped in like just a human element of storytelling for this crew. And I love that, even down to like, there's a climactic scene where Kappa is walking in a spacesuit and like it's a time sensitive thing and he trips and falls. And like, it is like the score is like very much heavy in that moment. And it's like this really just incredible moment where he has to, he's tripping over himself and he has to get up or else humanity dies. It's really, I love that kind of personal touch to it. Yeah. And, yeah, I've talked about Sunshine a lot. I did a bonus review of it on Anthology on an episode. I'll put a link in the show notes and everything. And then I'm going to move along because Kirsten actually wants to record remotely. So, we're going to record an episode about comedy, after I finish up with this. So I've got two more movies to talk about. First one is Code 8 from 2019 on Netflix. So, and, weirdly enough, it must have just been added to Netflix, I think, because it's, Netflix is doing their top 10 movies now, like top 10 things that are available on, Netflix. And as of this recording, it's number 6 in movies, today on Netflix. Code 8 is in a city where superpowered people are ostracized. An earnest day laborer considers using his outlawed abilities for money to save his sick mother. This movie stars Robbie Amell, Stephen Amell, and Sung Kang, and directed by Jeff Chan. It was originally a short film that was crowdfunded into making a feature film. On that front, it is visually really impressive. Like, the visual effects and everything are very, like, clean. It's very, it's visually really interesting and well done. And I was surprised to find that it was like a crowdfunded thing. Cause it's really good. Like, visually it's really good. The story, however, is just really just not that good to be honest. So I really appreciate the idea of superpowered people being, you know, kind of outcast from society, and like they have to be registered and everything. It's very much like it's like an allegory for, like it says, day laborers, immigrants who are trying to make a living under the radar because they can't, they're day laborers essentially. So on that front, it makes some, I mean, it's a pretty clear cut allegory to that in the movie. But aside from that, it doesn't offer anything. Like, it doesn't have any, like, real social commentary. It doesn't have anything to say about that, because aside from the superpowered people being kind of outcast and everything and having to use their superpowers for, like, crime and stuff, as this movie does, it's a basic crime story, to be honest. It is very much like, oh, this person is getting roped into performing this heist with his superpowers and stuff. And it is the most straightforward, like, cliched kind of crime story you can imagine. And it's a bummer. Like, it wasn't that good. Visually, it was cool. There were some concepts that were cool. These drones fly around and they catch superpowered people, and they have, like, these robotic, almost Chappie-esque, like drone, like remote controlled, like, things that fire and kill. They shoot and kill superpowered people and everything. But again, it's just very much just a standard crime movie. And it's not that interesting. Some of the choreography and the action scenes are pretty cool, but man, I just did not like it, like, hardly at all. So that's Code 8. It is available on Netflix. Apparently it's pretty popular on Netflix. I didn't really care for it, but you may like it different. So my final one before I get to the Spotlight review of Devs with Ben is Vivarium from 2020. So I rented this on Vudu. It is a new release. Vivarium. The plot summary, courtesy of Vudu, is Tom and Gemma are looking for the perfect home when a strange real estate agent takes them to Yonder, a mysterious suburban neighborhood of identical houses. Tom and Gemma can't leave quick enough, but when they try to exit the labyrinth-like housing development, each road takes them back to where they started. Soon they realize their search for a dream home has plunged them into a terrifying nightmare in this taut thriller filled with white-knuckle suspense. So Vivarium stars Imogen Poots and Jesse Eisenberg, and I don't remember who directed it. I don't have that information in front of me, but it's okay. Very much in line with the feel of, like, a Twilight Zone episode. And I was very much interested in that element of it, obviously. More particularly, I got shades of, like, Richard Matheson in it. Like, it felt like a Richard Matheson thing. Particularly, it reminded me of his story Button, that was made into the movie The Box with, I think, Cameron Diaz and James Marsden. Kind of reminded me of that. Just suburban couple with crazy science fiction stuff. On that front, the actual concept of the movie is really interesting. It is this dark tale of suburbia, this kind of cautionary tale of, like, suburban life that is fine, but my problem with it is that it really doesn't dive into the backstory of the characters or their relationship at all. Like, they have at all, really. Like, I just wish that there was more to their characters. But there's not, and it's kind of a bummer. As the kind of situation that they find themselves in evolves. It goes to some very interesting places. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that a baby shows up and they basically are forced into this role of having to raise this child that is not a child, but like this weird, like alien-esque creature that looks like a child, but has this, like, it's a nightmare. It is a nightmare. And like, I was very impressed with the way that element of the story was depicted, because like the kid will scream, when it wants something. And it's like these characters are thrust into this, like, parenting role that they didn't ask for. And I'm like, I'm watching it. I'm like, this is literally my nightmare. But as the movie kind of goes on, there is this weird disconnect that I felt with the characters' actions and their story. So like they kind of divide up. Like Jesse Eisenberg becomes obsessed with digging a hole in their front yard. And it's like, I appreciate that because that's something that he can control. Like he even says like, this is something I can do. Let me do this. But it causes a rift between them that it doesn't really, I don't know. It doesn't, I don't feel like it was demonstrated that well, really. The rift between them, and that kind of felt a little lacking to me. And then the ending, like when you have a concept that is so out there and strange in the movie world, like in a science fiction movie, like it's kind of, you can make it as interesting as you can, and the concept of it is very interesting, and I was very interested in the way it played out, even though it wasn't really to my liking. But in the payoff, like at the end, it has to have some kind of payoff, in my opinion. This movie does not pay off that well at all. It is kind of this ambiguous kind of thing, that I just kind of left it feeling like I don't understand what the point was of it. Like, I don't understand what message they were conveying. I don't understand what they were doing, aside from being like, well, this is a nightmare version of suburban life. And I was just like, okay, that's fine, but it's just, I don't know. It didn't really work for me. That's Vivarium. I'm hopefully going to write a full review on the website. Check it out, obsessiveviewer.com. And that does it for this edition, or this section of the podcast. Now I'm going to throw it over to my conversation with Ben about Devs, which is available on FX on Hulu from Alex Garland. So I'm just going to throw it to me in the past, who is talking to you in the present, which will also be the past when it's done talking. Okay, here's my review of Devs with Ben, frequent guest and friend of the show. Enjoy. All right. Okay, so I'm here with Ben, a contributor, friend of the show, and everything. Ben, how are you doing under quarantine?
Hello. Am I caller number 9? Did I win?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Staying sane for the most part.
Nice. I see that you are recording, or you're Skyping in, or Google Hangoutsing in your car.
Yeah. So I'm in my garage in my wife's car. Only because, like, unless you wanted my kids' opinion on Devs and to hear them in the background, and also to have this podcast be 14 hours long, this is the only place where I could go and not be interrupted.
Nice. Every
30 seconds. So, and also the sound quality is not terrible in here, I guess.
Right. Yeah, you're coming through pretty well. I will say that is a shame, because I know that all of our listeners, the one thing that they love most is when the episode lengths are so long. So that's a shame. But
yeah.
So we're here to talk about Devs, which is an original limited series on FX on Hulu, which I'll talk about that in a second, but written, created, directed by Alex Garland, who's done so much stuff. I'm going to kind of pattern around an episode about his work and everything, so you will have already heard me talk about Alex Garland, but this was on FX on Hulu, which is a new thing that I was under the impression that FX on Hulu was just them branding FX material on Hulu, but apparently it's like there are some exclusive stuff for it, like Devs is exclusively on FX on Hulu. And how do you feel about FX on Hulu and that?
Yeah. I still don't totally get it. I mean, I don't understand what the distinction is. I don't know, because I don't have cable, so I don't know if it's also airing on the TV channel. I mean, I know that it's not like airing live because the new episodes dropped at like midnight or so every week, but I don't know. It's some Disney thing, so...
what I understand of it, and I'll put a link in the show notes that has more information about this than what I'm rattling off the top of my head, but my understanding is that FX on Hulu is basically Disney's way of getting more adult stuff on Hulu. It's like their roadmap for Hulu is to have, because they now own Hulu like they own everything else, since they own like Fox and everything, they're putting the back catalog of FX shows on Hulu, which most of them already were on. But the FX on Hulu kind of thing is that the original programming that they're going to have is like Devs is exclusive to FX on Hulu, and apparently it is not airing on like FX. So this is their kind of halfway into like a side streaming service, essentially. So this way they FX is always it's kind of a step between like basic cable and HBO type of content. So it's kind of the shows that I have seen that are branded as FX on Hulu so far are, I would say, for the most part, in line with the regular FX's brand. Yes, I will say that they do have more freedom in terms of adult content. So like they have like swearing and everything, so they're not like confined to the FCC regulations and stuff. And I think that's the main kind of thing, because this way they can kind of do like an HBO or Netflix light type of thing in terms of content without having like that whole thing where it's like, oh, well, it's basically this, but it's still just, you can't, like, you have to skirt around swear words and stuff. Like,
sure.
Did you ever watch Sons of Anarchy?
No.
There was some, like...
Probably won't.
Yeah, But honestly, I really didn't like the show at all. Like, I kind of hated Sons of Anarchy, because it was kind of... It was too much, like, I don't know. Anyway, it's funny because on FX you can say, like, they can say the word shit, but they can't say, like, fuck or anything. So it's so funny because if you go and watch, like, any episode of Sons of Anarchy, it seems like they lean so hard into saying the word shit that it's like they say it at, like, times where it's not needed, but they need it to have, like, vulgarity. It's, I don't know, it's really... distractingly like awkward.
Right.
Yeah. Which is my rap name. But but Devs is one of the original series that is on FX on Hulu. Like I said, it's directed, written, produced, all that, by Alex Garland. Alex Garland has had a storied career in science fiction. He wrote 28 Days Later and Sunshine, that Danny Boyle directed both of them. Two of my all-time favorite movies. He also directed Ex Machina, Annihilation. How do you feel about Alex Garland's work, and how did you feel about Devs, like, in terms of the build-up toward the release and airing of it?
I am a big fan of his. I loved Ex Machina. It might have been on my top whatever of the decade, somewhere in there.
I think so.
And I didn't watch Annihilation when it first came out, but I watched it last year, and I really enjoyed it, mostly because I had read the book that it's based on and didn't really care for the book, and movie was so much better, a better execution of it. So I was pretty happy with it. I actually just watched for the first time 28 Days Later a couple weeks ago.
Oh, interesting.
And really enjoyed it, and didn't know when I set out to watch it that it was an Alex Garland screenplay. So now that I do know that, I can kind of see his fingerprints on it. Devs, though, I'm trying to remember. I think I had just seen a couple things online about that he was involved. I didn't know any specifics about the plot or what it was going to be about. So I got in the dark intentionally before I got into it, and I was pretty happy with it for the most part.
Nice. So in the lead up to Devs, I'd seen the trailers and everything. I'm going to kill my camera in case the bandwidth and everything is an issue. So yeah, in the lead up to Devs, I saw the previews and everything, and it was obviously very vague and everything. Alex Garland being attached to it was the big selling point for me, because I've been following the guy's career since 2004, and going into Devs, I was kind of a little almost reticent over it, because I was thinking I kind of want Alex Garland to do movies. I don't want him to. I don't want him to get stuck doing TV shows. This is when I didn't realize that it was a limited series. I thought it was going to be a series mini series arc thing. But yeah, overall, holy crap! I really enjoyed this. And about halfway through, I realized this is a stepping stone or of sorts. It's him going from movies to just this is long form storytelling, and I love it. I really enjoyed it. In non-spoilers, how did you feel about the overall plot and everything? For those who don't know, I'm going to go ahead and just read a simple plot summary from IMDb. A computer engineer investigates the secretive development division in her company, which she believes is behind the disappearance of her boyfriend. And, so how did you feel, Ben, about Devs in a broad, non-spoiler breakdown?
I really enjoyed it. It was there were maybe one or two episodes that I didn't really care for. But even those one or two episodes, I still found things to enjoy, and there was some good character work. But yeah, the ending, I really enjoyed. I think it really finished strong, and it's one of those shows that once you kind of learn about what it's all about and what they're trying to do, you try and figure out what is the end game going to be here, and I think he really nailed the landing. So I was really happy with it in the end. It made me kind of overlook those weaker moments a little bit more. And the story, I feel was very minimalist, and that may, I guess, come off as a backhanded compliment, I think. But I think it really worked well, because there was really maybe an A and a B story, but they're kind of, those two stories are really just working in tandem, really. At least that's what I thought about it. I don't know if you would agree or not, but I really enjoyed and it's very slow paced. It almost kind of reminded me of a Breaking Bad episode where they try and get from point A to point B, and there might be, a hiccup or two along the way, but then, for the most part, it's really just following this one or two plots.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And as far as the like A plot and B plot that it follows, we'll talk a little bit more in detail in spoilers. But there's one aspect of it that I feel like wasn't explored like at all, really, for the majority.
Okay.
Of it. In non-spoiler, kind of the backstory of the Sergei character, like his whole thing, like that kind of felt like. It felt just a little bit like needless until it was needed, but other than that, other than that, I do feel like it was pretty well paced. Like you said, it's very slow and very. I've seen like Alex Garland's brand of sci-fi has been described as like cerebral sci-fi. And I kind of love that because
100%.
Yeah, because he does such like great work at just depicting like the human element of it and like the implication of certain like technological achievements within like the worlds that he builds. Like Ex Machina, some of my favorite parts of that movie is the way that Oscar Isaac and Donald Gleason just have conversations about science and about the work that they're doing.
And the ethics of it, yeah.
Exactly, yes. And that is what makes Alex Garland's work stand out so much to me, is that it's like, as a fan of science fiction, like I love seeing like a wide swath of sci-fi. So like I love seeing like space operas that show like where humanity can go and everything, and like Star Trek is amazing because it's like, oh, this is
like space operas with lightsabers and little talking green men, and
I don't think that exists. We're on one of many worlds, and that does not exist. But no, like you know, spacefaring and like futuristic science fiction. Like that's great. But like what I love about Alex Garland is that he creates this near future world and populates it with characters that describe or they grapple with like the implications of what could come next, and that's something that I find really refreshing in his brand of science fiction. I feel like Devs really dove into that pretty heavily, and I also think it was just freaking gorgeous. Like
for sure,
stunning.
I think if I remember right, I think that whatever episode that I was on where I talked about the pilot episode, I may have mentioned that like if you liked Ex Machina, then you'll like this.
Yep.
And the more that I watched Devs, the more I think that's pretty true, because the two are very similar in terms of like the ideas that they are dealing with, and I mean, right down like Nick Offerman's character is almost like he could almost be related to Oscar Isaac's character in Ex Machina.
Yeah.
Right down to the beards.
Yep. I was just going to say, like, they're both big scientists.
Sadly, we didn't get any scenes of Nick Offerman, disco dancing or whatever.
That's a shame. And did you notice that or were you aware that the woman that plays Lily was like one of the androids in Ex Machina?
I did not realize that beforehand, but I think I saw like a meme or a tweet or something that said that, and I'm gonna have to. I mean, it's been a while since I've watched Ex Machina, so I'm gonna have to rewatch it and look out for her.
Apparently, I think I'm verifying that now. She's Kyoko, and it's like. It's remarkable because like I would have never thought that. And we'll talk about that more in spoilers. But another thing that I found really satisfying is this kind of almost connected, not connected universe, but like to your point about how Nick Offerman and Oscar Isaac could be like related in terms of their characters. I love Alex Garland's like commitment to showing, like in each of his like in Ex Machina, Annihilation, and now in Devs, he showcases the kind of, he has this like visual motif that's like the height of technological like marvel and like scientific discovery and everything that is engulfed in nature. Like the house in Ex Machina, the shimmer in Annihilation, and now Devs in Devs. Like, I just love that as like a visual metaphor. I don't know exactly what point he's trying to make with it, but I love that kind of cohesion, or that kind of like duality to his like visual style. I think that's just incredible.
I mean, it's like the age-old struggle, I guess, of like man versus nature, and like in Devs, like not only is this building, the Devs building, like in the middle of a forest pretty much, but like when you're walking up to the building, there's these like halo type things around the trees. It's just a really cool element, but it's also, you know, like I said, a kind of like a man trying to control nature kind of thing. Plus, like there's the, I'm sure we'll have thoughts on it, but the weird gigantic statue that's like literally rising above the tree lines that you see, that's kind of like looking down on them. That was a cool element to it.
I totally agree, and I kind of love that it's, from my memory of it, like it's not explained. It's not like they don't like like they don't cause like point it out in any way. It's just a thing, and it gives like so much like a lived in, and
like around it, like on the ground level, it's just this kind of like amphitheater kind of thing. So it's almost like there's a huge subtext in the whole thing about like tech and the people that run it thinking of themselves as these like godlike figures. And, you know, it's just another way to incorporate that idea of these guys who are like, you can picture like Nick Offerman doing some kind of a sermon type speech or something to all of his employees at this company.
Totally. And there is also, to that point, also there's a ton of like religious imagery and everything in it that I found really fascinating, that we can maybe talk more about in spoilers. But I want to talk a little bit about the character of Lyndon, the child prodigy that's in Devs. Are you aware of who plays Lyndon?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. Did you ever see Bad Times at the El Royale?
No.
Okay. Well, scratch that then. Did you ever see? I won't play this game. The person who plays Lyndon is Kaylee Spaney. She's an actress. Like it's really interesting because they cast a woman to play this child prodigy, this boy child prodigy, and I found that really interesting. Did you pick up on that at all, or were you aware of it at all?
Not really. I kind of, I mean, they didn't really give him or her, I guess, a whole lot of screen time. From what I remember, she was just in the one episode for the most part, and then she kind of comes back at the end, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The character.
You're fresher on this than me.
Yeah. The character appears in, actually, I think, all 8 episodes, unless they didn't. Yeah, but I don't know. But I just thought it was interesting, and I was like trying to think. Like I was watching. I was like, that's kind of like that's something that I don't really see, because it's not like she's playing like a trans character or anything, or some binary
like character or something.
Exactly. It's just straight up just a gender swap. And like I'll link to this in the show notes, but there's an article where she gives an interview about it, and like this just kind of clicked with me immediately. She was like, it's the same principle as like people like stage productions casting women to play Peter Pan because body type and everything, and
right.
they can play young boys. And I was like, oh, that clicks it together for me. But I thought it was really really unique casting. Cool performance. Let's go into spoilers for Devs, because otherwise we'll just start dancing around it. And this isn't Ex Machina dancing around it. Anyway, before we go into spoilers, though, did you ever see Sunshine?
No, I think that one might be on one of my lists on, I don't know, one of the streaming services I have. That I plan on watching, however much longer this lasts.
Right. I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite movies, just blanket statement, one of my favorite movies ever. But one of the coolest things about watching Devs, having been such a huge fan of Sunshine, is that the actual Devs lab, that set design, is incredibly reminiscent of one of the sets in Sunshine.
Okay.
And it's just visually, it's such a cool thing, and I was so happy to see it kind of not replicated, but kind of reflected in Devs.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love the production design in this show, just all around.
Totally.
Especially the Devs facility.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really. You can kind of see a place like that really existing in the real world, almost.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. All right. Well, let's get into more detail in our spoiler section. So we're going to go into spoilers for Devs. Here's a clip from the trailer. When we come back, we're going to be spoiling Devs. Check the show notes or watch the show, and then come back and listen to us if you haven't seen it yet. So we are going into spoilers for Devs.
This is your station?
But what am I actually doing here?
I'm not going to tell you. Don't worry. You're gonna figure it out.
The last time I saw him, he was headed toward Devs. And then he disappears. Something bad happened to him.
You know what happened to him. If you came for answers, ask me what you don't know.
What is Devs?
This is the only principle you need to understand. Nothing ever happens without a reason. Everything was determined by something prior.
They're fanatics. We need the police.
You want to take them down? It's impossible.
You knew I was going to come here.
The sense that you were participating in life was only ever an illusion. Life is just something we watch unfold.
What's inside?
Everything.
All right, and spoilers on for Devs. So, Ben, the first thing I want to kind of bring up is Sergey. Wow.
Yeah.
And the whole Russian spy, industrial espionage kind of plot line. That's the one part of the whole show that I just couldn't really get behind, even though it was the impetus of the main plot. It kind of felt like it was introduced and then went away completely, and then at the end it came back, and it just felt a little bit haphazard and sloppy. Did you catch any of that, or how did you feel about that whole subplot in the show?
I didn't really think about it a whole lot while I was watching, but yeah, I agree 100%. It was almost, it was very tossed off. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if, I guess it's probably, I'm okay with it because I don't know if we really needed a whole lot of backstory on him or a whole lot of, Nick Offerman versus the Russians, that kind of thing. But it kind of was made up to be like it was more of a big deal early on, and then just kind of went away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of feel like what I felt was missing from it was that it, and maybe it's just my expectations from the outset, but it kind of felt like, since that is our kind of gateway into the world, really, it kind of felt like they were setting it up, or I felt like they should have, how to phrase it, I feel like they were, by incorporating that from the outset, I feel like they were setting up a clash, like you said, between Nick Offerman and the Russians. Like,
yeah.
I mean, like what did the Russians want with that technology? Like how, like was it just strictly them wanting to know what Nick Offerman was doing and not having any real sense of what they're doing? I kind of maybe would have liked to have seen more of that in terms of like, competition, I guess.
Right.
But I'm happy with what we got in.
Because I think if they would have explored more of it, I think they would have either had less time to dedicate to the devs operation and what they're trying to accomplish, or there would have been more episodes and it would have just felt unnecessary, and just gone down a completely different path. Plus, and maybe this is just me saying this because I've seen the end product already, but I kind of get the feeling that Alex Garland isn't terribly interested in that kind of stuff,
Yeah, I totally agree. And like what we got instead of that is a lot more satisfying, a lot more cerebral, really, and interesting. It just kind of felt like it was kind of just strange that they introduced it and then did next to nothing with it.
Right.
But what we got was really fascinating. Like, how did you feel about the whole kind of idea of devs and this whole kind of voyeuristic and like weird kind of quantum mechanics based kind of science fiction element of it? Yeah,
I really liked what it ended up being about. This may be something that I touched on the last time that I talked about it, but very early on, they didn't really give any ideas about what devs was or what they were trying to do, just that Sergey was trying to steal it. And I forget if I had guessed if it was about like cloning or alternate realities or something like that. Either way, I'm sure I was totally off.
I want to say you maybe said it was cloning.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I want to say that you maybe guessed that it was cloning. But yeah.
Yeah, that probably sounds familiar. I'll have to go back and listen to it. But I liked how they kind of revealed it piece by piece and not all at once. Because there was, I think initially there was the scene where they're like watching Marilyn Monroe have sex.
Yeah.
And then after that, they didn't really reveal a whole lot more. But then there's, I think one of my favorite episodes was, I think, episode 5, where it's just very simple, and it's like there's several scenes where you get the visualization of these alternate realities, where there's one scene where Nick Offerman is watching his wife and child die in that car crash, and just the different outcomes that come from that. Mm-hmm. And I really liked the visualization of that and how it really helped to explain what it was.
I loved that. Just in terms of, like you said, the visualization of it was really just cool. Like very simplistic, but very like direct, and didn't feel like it was like it wasn't too showy, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And really, I mean, they do it a couple times in that episode, but like they don't do like that car crash scene is probably the most showy. Like there was one where what was her name? Katie, the blonde.
Yeah.
Where she's like walking out of university or something, and Nick Offerman is trying to pursue her for a job. So they do that again, and just the different realities there and different outcomes.
Yeah.
And that was, again, just kind of mundane kind of stuff, and it really helped to show how it worked.
I agree. And one of another instance in the finale where they showed that, I think it was in the finale, yeah. They showed when Katie was at the dam with Lyndon, and what I found really fascinating about that is that she goes through this whole thing where she's telling him, like, I've seen this, I've watched this several times, I know exactly what's going to happen and everything, and like she goads him into just standing on the edge there. And what I found really cool about that was that every single iteration of that was him falling to his death. Like there was not one where he's okay. I thought that was just really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. About the actual, like, there was maybe this is probably thinking this is probably too simplistic and everything, but I did like that kind of at the end where Nick Offerman's like, where he's like, you want to know what devs is, like, it's, or like why it's called devs or whatever. It's not like the he is actually a U, and then it's a deus, and it's because he's God or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's so cool, because like now Alex Garland has had deus and ex machina, so deus ex machina.
Oh man, I didn't even put that one together. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
See, yeah, that's like what I was saying. It's like they're the same worlds.
Yep, exactly. So what did you think of Lily Chan, the main character, and her journey throughout the show? She becomes kind of an agent of, not agent of chaos, but like she's like the thing that breaks the system down and everything. So I don't know. How do you feel about her whole arc throughout the show?
I enjoyed it. I'm trying to think of like another movie and another character that you could compare her to, but she's just trying to, I don't know. I think starting out and just trying to figure out what happened to her boyfriend, that was a good kind of entry point into figuring out what all was going down. And then as the show went on, it felt like it was less about Sergei and what happened to him. And so I really liked her as a character. She's you really, and this is probably at least partially because of the performance of the actress, whose name I don't have in front of me. But she did a great job of, making you on her side and wanting her to figure this out.
Absolutely. She was she was a good, like, audience surrogate. Audience Sergey it. Anyway, so she was a good audience surrogate, and she was a good character to kind of root for. Yeah, and I want to mention. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say there was. I forget which episode this was, but there was like whatever episode it was where they had her like committed to the hospital and like wrongfully arrested, I think it was, maybe. But they tried to make it so that she was insane and nobody would ever believe her. And that was another good way of, I feel like a lot of shows that would be kind of a stall tactic to pad out the runtime,
Yeah.
But here it felt natural, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what I love so much about that specific arc is that the episode beforehand, I think it was episode 4, at the end of that episode where she escapes from Kenton's car, and then she goes back to Jamie, and she's like, we have to call the police. She calls the police, and like it's built up like this big moment where it's like we're going to do something, and then immediately it's like, okay, the police are here, she's in custody, Kenton goes into the apartment and just like shuts the door, presuming that Jamie's in danger. And like,
right.
What I loved about that ending is that it felt like, I don't know if this was the intention, but the feeling I got watching that ending was that it was the kind of ending that happens like when you're playing a video game and you fail a mission and then like everything just stops, and like it's
right.
Like one of those things where it's like, okay, now game over and everything. I loved that, the way that they tied up that episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and also,
so I was going to ask you this because you binged watch all of these, like once the whole series came out.
Yes,
and I think I watched each episode as it came out. I mean, the last 2 episodes I watched at once, but other than that, like, was it more like, did it feel more like a Netflix type series where it flowed from one episode to the next pretty seamlessly, or how did you feel about binging it, I guess?
I actually really liked binging it. It did feel very seamless. Like I said, it felt like, it really felt like an 8 episode long movie. Like it felt like Garland was telling his story, and it like about maybe 5 episodes in, I was like, I kind of feel like this is like Alex Garland being like, well, I have this material that I want to make into a movie. By the way, this is not what happened, but just I get the impression that it felt like the kind of thing where it's like, well, it'll be too long to make a movie, so let's make it 8 episodes.
Right.
Like it had that kind of cohesion throughout it, that made it feel very seamless.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned the after 5 episodes, because I think the 6th episode I feel like was probably the lowest, or the one that I liked the least, I think.
Okay.
And that's the one where it's kind of a bottle episode from what I remember.
Yeah.
Where really like the 4 main characters are all just kind of talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it was some good character work.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed that aspect of it, but the plot just kind of stalled a little bit for me.
Yeah, that was episode 5, kind of the entire episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for the majority of the episode, it's Katie is watching events unfold in Devs, and it kind of goes through vignettes of each character. I didn't have a problem with it really at all. But
I think,
yeah. But
the one that I can't remember if this is the same episode that you're referring to, but it's the one that I'm talking about is the one where they're all at, I think, Nick Offerman's house, and he eventually goes outside and like plays frisbee with Jamie.
Yeah, honestly, that's episode 6.
Okay.
And honestly, I kind of loved it. But I totally get the idea of it slowing everything down and everything.
Yeah.
It just felt like a pivot in the story.
Yeah.
But I kind of loved it for those character moments. Like, just I really appreciated like the scenes between Lily and Katie where they're just talking openly about everything, and then same with Jamie and Forrest. It's like they're just it felt so counterintuitive to what you would expect from a sci-fi thriller kind of story. I found it really compelling, but I can totally get how someone would see it kind of slowing things down a bit.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe it would look different to me if I would have binged it all, but just having to wait another week to get the plot back going was kind of, again, it's not bad. I mean, I still love the series overall, but kind of slowed things down a little bit there.
Yeah, I can 100% understand that, and I feel like I probably would be singing a slightly different tune if I had watched it week to week like that.
Right.
I will say though, and this is so. While watching that episode specifically, that's where we get the kind of detail about how like every devs thing that's happened has been predicted, like how the tram lines have been perfect, but something happens when Lily goes to devs in 24 hours that breaks everything down. Like, that's a very compelling thing, and like it just brings to the forefront this determinism and like fated kind of thing.
That's really where, especially those last two episodes, that's really where it gets like philosophical almost.
Yes. I love that part of it, and it made me think, like as the scenes were unfolding with Katie and Lily and like having that conversation in the house, I kept thinking like did you ever see the show Flash Forward or read the book that it was based on?
No.
Okay. So basically, Flash Forward is based on a novel by Robert J. Sawyer. It's okay. It's perfectly okay. The plot of the book is that the world blacks out. Like every human being blacks out for like 20 seconds, and while they're blacked out, everyone has a vision of themselves 20 years in the future, and then they wake up, and it's just everyone's grappling with that. And it's a fascinating premise. Unfortunately, it was made into a show in like 2011 that was horrendous. Like it was just it was super just shitty. But anyway,
if I remember right, like that was, I feel like one of them that was kind of pitched as like the next Lost. Like once it ended. Is that right?
Exactly. Yep.
Or am I thinking of someone else?
It was definitely that. They actually premiered it the year that Lost was ending its run.
Okay.
And I think it may have been a lead-in for Lost or something, or Lost may have been its lead-in. I don't know. But anyway.
Okay.
The show was terrible, but I kept thinking, like, I read the book late last year, and like I said, it's just okay. But as that scene was unfolding with Lily and Katie in the house, I was sitting there thinking, man, I would just, like, this is, like, I would love to see Alex Garland take that novel and adapt it and make it into something just really unique. And then almost as soon as I thought that, they start talking about how, like, okay, well, they have a vision of the future and how everything's going to break down, and I'm like, oh, he kind of already did, because that's a lot of like that. The concepts and philosophy of devs is what's haphazardly explored in Flash Forward. But
right.
But yeah, but I just love that kind of the ideas presented in it, and the kind of fanaticism also of Katie and Forrest. Like, I could see people having a problem with the ending or the kind of climax of the show in the dev's place where she has him at gunpoint and everything, because like Katie, my read of it is Katie and Forrest are fanatical about it, and it's like you just simply can't change anything that's going to happen. It's a fixed thing. And like when she does that, when she throws the gun, it's like that's like I just found that so fascinating to me on like a philosophical level. But I could see people being like, well, duh, like like duh, like why would she not do that to prove them wrong? But how do you feel about that?
Yeah, there were definitely some vibes of like Minority Report, or I'm sure there's more things that I could reference, but yeah, just I really enjoyed what it turned out to be, kind of what the whole series, what its thesis statement, I guess, would be about like free will and fate and determinism, and just the way that it wrapped up was really nice.
I totally agree. And on that note, and we can kind of start winding down a little bit too, but when the kind of denouement of the show, like the devs system afterlife kind of thing that Forrest and Lily are in, how did you feel about that? Like, how did you feel about that development? Because that kind of, it surprised me, and I was definitely into it. It just felt just kind of a weird button on the season as a whole. How did you feel about that?
I liked it because, like, the whole, not necessarily the whole time, but once you figure out what, like, obviously, like, Forrest is trying to, bring his daughter and his wife back to life, and so you're trying to figure out, like, how is he going to do this with a computer?
Yeah.
And I feel like that was a really nice way of making it happen. Mm-hmm. And one that, the way that it was presented, at least, it made sense for the show. They didn't, like, jump the shark and try to, because X did this, then now his daughter is back.
Right.
And the whole time I was trying to figure out, like, how is he going to actually bring his daughter back, like, in a logistical sense? Because I kind of got the vibe of, like, he's like the Kingpin from Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
He's,
oh my God, yes.
He's trying to bring his family back and bring in alternate dimensions in order to make it happen.
Wow. Yeah, that holy crap. That is the parallels to that are insane.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, so kind of overall thoughts on oh my God. Devs. How did you feel about it overall, and are you looking forward to more stuff from Alex Garland, of course?
Oh yeah, definitely. I haven't really seen. I don't think I've been on his IMDb page lately, so I don't remember if he's got anything else in the works or not. But yeah, I'll still see whatever he puts out next, 100%.
Same here.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say same here. I don't think he has anything in the works yet, but from what I read on that interview with Kaylee Spaney, apparently he has said in interviews somewhere that he wants to do something else with this same cast and crew, just something completely unrelated, but with that same core cast. And I was like, I'm all for that because I think that they worked really well together. So hopefully he does do.
And as much as I like this, I do not want a second season.
Oh yeah, same here. Yeah.
I don't want this to be like a Big Little Lies situation.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. I think we're safe off of that.
Yeah.
Just because this was, something that he directed and wrote every episode. Like, he has complete, from what I can tell, complete creative control over it, and I feel like he probably told the story that he wants to tell. He did.
Real quick, how did you feel about Nick Offerman's performance?
Oh yeah, I think he did a very good job. Like, he is someone who, he's an actor who he's versatile in the way that he can be very deadpan, and I don't know. I liked his performance. I'll put it that way. It's very subdued.
I don't think I had seen him in anything dramatic before. So I was pretty satisfied. He nailed all the dramatic parts.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm thinking especially like I said, the alternate reality episode where you see all the different car crashes, and his reactions to those were all really great. Totally
agree. All right, well, I think that should just about do it. Any parting thoughts on Devs or FX on Hulu or Alex Garland?
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
I will say that Sunshine is not available to stream really anywhere. I just looked it up.
Okay.
But I still highly recommend it. It's such a good movie.
Okay.
It's great. All right, well, I think that should just about do it then. Thank you so much, Ben, for chatting with me about Devs, and I hope the car is okay. You're not.
I'll let me just turn the car off here. Hopefully that's not an issue. Yes, the garage door is closed.
I'm so surprised that you're still breathing right now.
I don't know what you're talking about, but yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you. Hope you're staying safe and staying sane and everything. With all
you too.
Happiness. Thank you. All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of The Obsessive Viewer. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back with another episode at some point soon. But in the meantime, check out Anthology. I'm bringing it back. And Tower Junkies has some new stuff in the pipeline as well. Also, Ben, we didn't really talk about the stuff that you've been writing recently on the website. Do you want to pitch some of their promote? There is the word.
Sure.
Some of the reviews you've written.
I mean, I haven't been writing as much as I would like to. I don't really have much of an excuse for that. There have been a couple Netflix and Amazon series, or not series, movies that I have been meaning to watch and review, and new releases specifically. But fingers crossed I can get around to that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you recently did review Trolls World Tour.
Yes.
And Blow the Man Down.
Correct. That one is on Amazon.
Yes. So thank you again for contributing and everything. It's great to have you aboard. And I've also been reviewing Universal Monsters movies, and that's about it, really. So check that out at obsessiveviewer.com. Once again, Ben, thank you so much for joining me, and to you, listener, stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you so much for listening to the Obsessive Viewer podcast.
The Obsessive Viewer podcast is edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. For a full archive of our episodes, go to ObsessiveViewer.com/OV archive. You can also like our Facebook page and join the OV Facebook group at Facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer. And follow us on Twitter at ObsessiveViewer and at ObsessiveTiny. And follow our recurring co-hosts at I am Mike White, that's me, at R.A. Feckus, and at Burger_Lurker. If you enjoy the show, please take a couple minutes to leave us a rating and a quick review on Apple Podcasts. This is the easiest way to support what we do, and all it costs is a little bit of your time. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can make a PayPal donation at obsessiveviewer.com/donate. Or support us on Patreon for recurring donations and access to commentary tracks and B-roll audio recorded exclusively for patrons at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Every donation goes toward paying the fees to keep the podcast running and is greatly appreciated. For official Obsessive Viewer merch, including shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more, visit our TeePublic store. You can find a link to the store in the show notes of this episode and at obsessiveviewer.com/donate. Or you can simply search for Obsessive Viewer at teepublic.com, T-E-E, public.com. For information about our annual live event showcasing short horror films from local filmmakers, check out shocktoberInIrvington.com. And for an archive of all our events, as well as news about potential future events, head over to obsessiveviewer.com/live. For more podcast content, you can find Anthology, Matt's solo podcast covering The Twilight Zone, and other classic and contemporary science fiction anthology TV shows at anthologypod.com and on Twitter at OVAnthologyPod. You can also find Tower Junkies, a podcast where Matt and Tiny share their love of all things Stephen King and his magnum opus, the Dark Tower series, at towerjunkiespod.com and at towerjunkiespod on Twitter. And finally, check out The Secular Perspective, Tiny's side project podcast, which tackles current events and life's big questions from the perspective of secular hosts Chad and Amanda at thesecularperspective.com. The theme music for The Obsessive Viewer comes courtesy of the band Loudlike from their EP Mistakes We Must Make. Additional bumper music is provided courtesy of As Good As It Gets, which can be found at facebook.com/asgoodasitgetsband. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Kitty!